Yeat was not somebody I was aware of or tuned into. So my apologies to all the big Yeat stands who are
Come
finding this
on.
video.
You're a big fan of the Gentle Minions trend on TikTok. Surely you've heard Rich Minion off the Minions soundtrack by Yeat.
No, is that really this? That's this guy. That's
Oh,
incredible.
yeah, dog.
I do love the gentle minions trend. That's a great trend. If we were in college, we probably would have done this. Um, yeah, I mean, Dave, you wanted to listen to this. I'm gonna give you the floor. Like, what made you interested in checking this out?
Yeah, well, it's not so much that I was interested, more so much that I think Yeat is one of the most significant new faces in hip hop over the last, year and a half. He only really exploded back half of 2021. He had a big hit, Get Busy, on TikTok. Really just, like a classic TikTok hit, just one little quotable in a song becomes a trend, becomes a sound, and he explodes. But he has actually a lot of music out to this point, and if you listen to him, it is abundantly clear that Yeat is kind of the next evolution, next step, next entry in that kind of rage beats, whole lot of red, Playboy Cardi type thing that is a big subculture, big subgenre in hip hop these days. And we talked a lot about Whole Lot of Red when that came out, and it's definitely even like someone like Little Uzi Vert who dabbles in that kind of sound from here to there on his new EP. We talked a lot about Cardi and why we didn't think it was super effective, right? At least not with any semblance of consistency. And it has just been interesting to me to see like this sound continue post Whole Lot of Red, which was a very successful album for Cardi, of course. And here's someone new really come out of nowhere in Yeat, a white guy from Portland who wears turbans. Like we got a lot going on there, but you listen to him and it's like, you know what? Like the vocal performance is quite obviously indebted to Future and Thug. And then you're taking the sounds of Cardi and that style of autotune, that style of production. And it's like, why is Yeat becoming successful in his own right? He has a lot of fans now. We talked about this earlier this year. Yeat turned down XXL 2022 because he was that big already, and he would have been like the guy, alongside Nardo Wick if he was on the cover this year. That's how rapid his rise has been, and I think it's just kind of interesting to try and analyze this music that's clearly for the kids, 15-year-olds like Yeat.
Yeah. 100%.
And that being said, some of his other hits, sorry about that. I don't know, that was pretty fucking catchy, I'm not gonna lie. But this 6th EP of his Lyfë, did you have anything that jumped out to you on this? To me, it sounds like his other stuff. So I don't think like this certainly would not change your opinion of Yeat if you weren't already in,
Right. Yeah, and I think like my main two observations in listening to this, and I wouldn't say I loved the album, but there were moments that really stood out to me, was that they made some like very specific production choices in terms of how they tuned his voice, and at times like leaning into certain instruments, like really taking over songs. Like on Can't Stop It, the drums are so clear and crisp on that song, and I'm like, man, this fucking banging. Like I love this, but they basically like fade his voice into the music so much that it's like it's almost like I think they forgot to like mix that up a bit because I can't even make out what he's saying a lot of the time. But I mean that again, hello, how do you do, fellow kids? Like this is someone probably twice the age of the demographic they're going for, and maybe that's just what 15-year-olds like today, and that's fine. I think like there's some really interesting production at times, and I think like whenever I hear something that sounds like super modern in some way, my like first thought is, "Oh, the Dylan Bradyification of this thing," which is not always correct, obviously. But something like Up Off X like
Mhm,
sounds just so like futuristic and like
mhm.
I don't know, like washed out in the most like auto-tuned way possible that it's actually like kind of like interesting to listen to, and I found that to be pretty engaging. Um, uh, Come On is kind of similar, but that's a little bit more like bouncy and clubby in a sense.
Mhm,
There's some tracks on here I didn't mind, but there wasn't a lot that I was like, man, I can't wait to run that one back or add it to the
mhm.
playlist.
Yeah, I'd say honestly, one of the most interesting songs to me was Crank. And
Hmm.
that's really because it's Yeat at his most clear, at his most
Yes.
almost conventional. And because that's unusual for him, I wonder if that is perhaps a step forward for him. I don't know. We'll have to hear some more music to really figure that out. But ultimately, like, I get bored by a lot of his music more than I'd like, and that's kind of my view on a lot of this like rage beats style hip hop is like this shit's actually not that tough. This shit's actually not that cool. Like this could be way harder. This could be way more energetic. And the vocal performance could certainly be way more lively than it actually ends up being. And I kind of would love to just hear him take it further. I think of like someone like Mario Judah. That guy at least fucking puts some passion into his vocals. Not that I always like his stuff
Hmm.
either. So yeah, I think it's just kind of interesting to see how stuff comes up. I guess one of his songs was on Euphoria this past season, actually, which is honestly a really tasteful, poignant song to drop in for a show like that. To be honest,
It's like the most relevant song they put into that show. It's usually like, here's a deep '90s cut that no one from this generation actually listens
right?
to. It's like cool,
Yeah, it was. I think it was Elliot was listening to Yeat in his car when he like
nice.
was with Hunter Schafer or something. Also, I just side note, like I love that Yeat like regularly references Tonka trucks. The childhood toy. I love that. That's like one of his like bits, his trademarks. That's hilarious.
Just one other track that I think similar to what you're talking about, Crank, was Out the Way, where he's a little bit more like he's a little bit more toned up in that, a little bit more clear, and the production flourishes in that, or like I don't know, very interesting. There's like just these like weird like synths just kind of like flying out of nowhere on it a lot. But I actually like kind of thought the production on a lot of this was kind of interesting. So when you're a rising star like him, you get to work with really good people, and it sounds like he's just on the trajectory upwards. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more from him. Dave, we're gonna add a song to our nostalgia best of 2022. I'm leaving it up to you.
Yeah, might as well throw Talk on there. That seems to be the hit so far.
Check out Talk on our nostalgia best of 2022 playlist on Spotify.